after flying over the Sahara Desert for 2 or 3 hours, it was good to see rivers appear as we approached Senegal and the coast of the Gambia. We landed at Banjul Airport, which is on the western end of the Gambia, and that's all we saw of Banjul because we spent the rest of our fortnight's holiday in the countryside. Good to see the delta of the Gambia River and the greenery after so much sand and dryness in the Sahara Desert. We landed at Banjul and we wasted no time in our hotel. We were into the back garden of the hotel almost as soon as we landed. We went in the front door and out the back door. Within minutes of landing, we were there in the back garden of the hotel watching strange and exotic birds which most of us had never seen before. This man with the ponytail is Dr. Roy Armstrong. He lives at Port Carlisle and he was the leader of the party.
Cracking view of Violet Turret. Wait till it flies, it's got bright red wings. There's usually a pair. Yeah. I wonder if that's a fig tree. Hey, at this time of day. Sorry.
As well as birds, there are all sorts of strange insects to watch, and things like this. About 3 inches. This insect is. I think it's a locust, but I'm not sure. But it's a monster. I'm glad we haven't got these on Norfolk Road. Every morning we had breakfast outside in the yard, and it was magic to be outside eating and drinking in temperatures of 80 degrees. There was a sort of cycle track all round the hotel, and this was good for a walk and a watch. In the garden of the hotel, the laundry people did the washing daily, all the sheets and pillowcases and towels and things, all done by hand. They were all tidy women, these, and I was amazed how well dressed they were. I've never seen a washerwoman in England that looked like this. They were very happy women, these, always laughing and joking in spite of it being washing day. Washing day on Monday in England wasn't like that when I was a lad. Most of the time we were scrambling about like this. It was a job for boots, certainly, because the ground was rough. But you've got to get into the countryside on the rough ground to see birds like this. That was a spurwing plover, and this is a jacana. Jacanas have toes about 3 inches long to enable them to walk over the top of lily leaves. I'm not sure which branch of Asda this was. The coast of the Gambia faces onto the Atlantic, but with the blueness and the brightness it looks more like the Pacific to me. You can see there isn't a lot of spare meat on this horse. Of course there's not much grass in the Gambia. On the beach we saw this lady making what I think is called a Hooky Mat. My grandma used to make these when I was a lad. She's using an old sack as a backing, and probably rags cut up the way my grandmother used to do. They weren't offered for sale, these mats, so they must use them in their own homes. Dr. Armstrong brought along a good Leica telescope, which made it easy to see the more distant birds and small objects. And these are wood hoopoes, a typical African species.
The end bit's no.
We tried to photograph butterflies in Bijilo forest, but they were very difficult to get because of course they're never still. Butterflies are still when it's cold, but as soon as the sun gets on them they warm up, and that makes them active, so they're difficult to picture. This monkey is a red colobus. This was Linda's and I, sixth visit to Africa, and this was the first time we'd seen colobus monkeys. We'd looked for them on other occasions but never seen them, so we were quite pleased to get among a group. And this is a grey hornbill, quite a large bird, about 3 foot from the tip of the bill to the tip of its tail. And these are green vervet monkeys. They were all over the place in the forests. It's fatal to feed the monkeys, so we don't do it, because if you give them anything to eat you never get rid of them.
No? You see, the couscous you have to pound.
This was a little village stop where we were shown how they make various cereals.
I put 5 there.
This, I believe, is couscous she's preparing now. You can see the huts thatched with palm leaves. And of course goats and any other animals live in a part of the house. The road to Tendaba camp, which we were going to today, is very dusty and potholed, and whenever the bus stopped we were surrounded by kids looking for pens and sweets. Jolly and friendly people all the time, the Gambians, and very smart in their colourful dresses. And this is us arriving at the bar to have a drink before we start wandering around in Tendaba. These were the little huts we stayed in. Nothing luxurious at all, but you can't expect anything else in the bush. This was our luxury apartment, all mud corns, a thin mattress, mosquito nets, and an electric light nailed to the wall. 5-star camp we called it. And this is us on what we called a creek crawl. It was one of the most exciting things we did, because we went for about 10 miles up a tributary of the Gambia to see what birds there were there, and this is the place to do it, because there was everything. Kingfishers, there's about 7 or 8 different species of kingfisher. That's a grey-headed kingfisher, and this is an egret, a cattle egret, and of course the Gambia is full of European swallows and swifts and martins. They all migrate to Africa for the winter. This bird here is an anhinga, or snake bird. Snake bird because of its snaky neck. And these are swallows and martins hunting for insects in the water, on the water, above the water. A tree full of them. The sky was full of them as well. We kept sailing around little corners and you never knew what you were going to see next. Ospreys were fairly frequent. All the European ospreys migrate to Africa for the winter. This is a great white heron. That's a malachite kingfisher. They're geese, I think they're Egyptian geese. And this is our bird watcher guide for the boating trip. He was very good, he could identify things at 100 yards, no bother. And these are whimbrel, these are European birds which have migrated south for the winter. They're a relative of the curlews. Just slightly smaller than a curlew. And this is a clawless otter. We were very lucky to see this because they're rare animals and they spend all their time in muddy water, so you don't get much of a chance to spot them. These are great blue herons. We spent an hour at a fishing village on the coast and the boats had just come in to land their catch and it was all landed by hand. There were people by the dozen going out with baskets to bring their fish ashore. I could have spent all day in an atmosphere like this, but we had to get back for dinner. It's only by getting among the natives when you go to Africa that you get the true atmosphere of the country, and that's what we did and we enjoyed it.
This pen, this then it come. Driver, Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ những video hấp dẫn.